Hi, I'm 𝗂𝗂 with 𝗂𝗂 and I help you live the dream through travel. I provide premium travel planning and advisory services for empty nesters in the second act of their lives. I help them up-level their vacations. Why? Because you've earned it. Today's topic is all about France. And not just any trip to France, but a soulful experience to France. And I'm back. This is 𝗂𝗂 with 𝗂𝗂, helping you live the dream through travel. And it's been a while since the last time I've done a live video or any video at all, because a lot's been happening. So I have been retired 6 entire months from my full-time. Now I am doing travel full-time. So I had to have a break in there. I took time, my husband and I, to travel to France and Spain during the summer. Then we came back and I got acclimated to retired life. So today I want to know if you are ready to live the dream, because it was pretty awesome living the dream. So if you're out there and you've got any comments or questions, just let me know and I will answer it, or I'll try to answer it while I'm live. I'm not going to be here long. I just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware that the Soulful France Experience River Cruise is open for booking for 2026. However, if you're a VIP and have been on my VIP list, then you would have gotten an email. So check your email to see if you got the invitation to book. Now, if you're not a VIP, then you have an opportunity still to learn a little bit about the trip and to book in 2026. And you'll have up to 15 months to make your payment. So make sure you check your email. You VIPs out there, you get first shot, because this trip is a trip of a lifetime. It's one of those GOAT trips, one of those greatest of all trips. Those are the things we think about and we dream about and we save our money to take. And when we get to a certain station in life, we can take it. So remember, you only got one life to live, and you may as well live it, and live it while you can in more ways than one. All right. So if you don't know what the Soulful River Cruise experience is for France, I'm going to tell you just a little bit about it. The Soulful France 2026 River Cruise, it's actually the 4th iteration. The first sailing was in 2023 on 𝗂𝗏 is the cruise line. And hold on one second, because something was going off on my printer. I just wanted to make sure that I turned it off before it started making noise doing my broadcast. So the Soulful experience is, this is the 4th, this will be the 4th sailing. The first sailing was in 2023, and this will be sailing in 2026 in October. Now, I actually traveled on this itinerary this past summer, and it was awesome. Now, I had been on one of these river cruises before in 2022 or 2021, thereabouts. It was beautiful. It was called the Colors of Provence itinerary. However, a group of Black travel advisors were invited to France, or invited to Europe, basically, to sail with on the waterways. And we said, hey, what about you doing a specialty or special emphasis trip that focuses on Africans and African Americans? In short, the African diaspora, because our history is everywhere. And guess what? They did it. They delivered, which is why 𝗂𝗻𝗂 Waterways is always going to be the river cruise line that 𝗂𝐿𝐴 Travel promotes before any other line. And yes, I do sell other lines, but 𝗂𝗻𝗂 Waterways is the top of the list, the top of the 𝗂𝐿AC Travel list, because of what they've done. So this is a fabulous experience, traveling to France, and getting to know, learn, and appreciate the contributions of the African diaspora in France, because there's a great presence there, starting from colonial times, World War I, World War II, the French Revolution. So there's so much history there. And the first, I could tell you one thing that I know, the first Black fighter pilot was an American by the name of Eugene Bullard from Georgia. And he flew for the French during World War I, because back then the military was a segregated military. And so the French needed people. And so first he fought for the French Foreign Legion, and then he became a fighter pilot. But he went through a whole lot to get there. So France has there's a special relationship that African Americans and have. So this is Priscilla with 𝗂𝐿AC Travel, helping you live the dream through travel. Thank you. Thank you. Whoever is making the comments, thank you. If you've got any questions or comments, just make your comment in the post and I'll see it and try to answer it. So back to what I was talking about. I'm talking about the Soulful River Cruise, Soulful France River Cruise. It's a 7-day river cruise. Starting in this time, it starts in Arles. That's where the sailing is going to be. The port of Arles, that's where the river cruise port is on the Mediterranean coast. The ship starts, that's where you embark in Arles, France. You fly into Marseille, and then we start with the 7-day river cruise, which has special emphasis on the African diaspora as you sail. It's also French, but they have weaved in Black heritage and culture into this itinerary. Now, how many of you knew that jazz was introduced to France by African American soldiers during World War I? Yeah, so jazz is a big deal in France, and jazz is now part of the culture, but it was introduced by African American soldiers during World War I. So the 7-day river cruise starts in Arles and sails up the Rhone River to Lyon, where you'll have 3 days in Paris once you get to Paris after landing in Lyon, France. Okay, so the trip features, this is the best part, is everything is included. All the tours, all the excursions, all the food, all of the spirits, all of the beverages, except for premium alcohol. Everything is included on this tour. Did you hear me? I said everything is included on this tour. Everything is included on this tour. That means the 7-day river cruise plus 3 nights in Paris plus all of the tours. Now, tell me that's not a greatest of all trips, because it definitely is. It wound up being the greatest, at least for myself and for my husband. And for those of you who've never left the country before, that's a good way to start traveling, is to do a river cruise and go to France or someplace like that. In Europe, because on the river cruises, you never lose sight of land. You basically are on the river, sailing through the countryside, and when the ship stops, you get off in the middle of town. There's medical assistance there, good health care. We actually had an issue with one of my clients who went with us, and she was able to get telemedicine and telehealth while on the ship, and her medicine at a fraction of the cost. So back to what we were talking about. This trip has everything. You're going to experience a luxurious 7-night all-inclusive river cruise in France with 3 nights post-cruise stay in Paris, and that'll be at the Arc de Triomphe Hotel or similar. All breakfast at the hotel will be included. But what also is included are jazz performances along the way, Black Heritage tours in Paris, a Josephine Baker tour in Paris, as well as additional site visits in France to other sites that celebrate the African diaspora. There's also winery tours, culinary tours, Roman walking tours, and your castle tours. There's just so much to do on this trip. Some people took time to go visit the Louis Vuitton store on this trip. Some people took time out because you're going to have time to do other things. They took time out to go to the Eiffel Tower like I did. And this is what the ship looks like. It is the Ama Cristina. It's a beautiful ship, very smooth, not like your ocean cruises, because your ocean cruises actually take you to countries. Now, the river cruises, they take you through them because the rivers go straight through the heart of the country. And you get off every day, several tours you can pick from, and all of this is included. Beautiful staterooms. Only 174 guests on this ship. So space is limited. So it's important, if you're interested in going, that you reach out and make your deposit. There are going to be jazz experiences on this tour. And when I say jazz experiences, there were nightly jazz performances from local jazz musicians in the area. We had some French historians come on board and talk about the history of slavery in France. It wasn't a bad thing. Everyone appreciated it. We had macaroon making class on board. There were all sorts of activities that you can embark on. Like I also mentioned, there are wine tours or vineyard tours, vineyard and like the Beaujolais wine region. I went to the Beaujolais wine region where we actually went to a vineyard, and the farmer walked us around, and he talked to us about how they grow the grapes, and they had a tasting. Now, you don't have to drink alcohol to go on these tours because there's always alternatives. And there was also chocolate. There's all sorts of activities that you can experience while you're on this trip, including truffle farm visit. There's all sorts of World War II memorabilia. There's a steam train ride. There's walking with the Romans in some of the villages and towns, castle visits, you name it. There's plenty of things to do. And the best part about it is this is the Soulful experience. So it really feels like family when you're on this cruise. Okay, so if anybody's got any comments or questions, just put them in the chat. Put your comments or your questions in the chat so I can answer them. Now, after we do the 7-day river cruise, we're going to sail to Lyon, France, which is the gastronomy capital of France. There are tasting tours there, culinary tours. I know we visited a Senegalese restaurant, and we had some Senegalese French cuisine tasting, which was awesome. And guess what? They had what, if you're from the Caribbean, you would call it sorrel. but they had a drink made in Senegal that is made out of hibiscus. You can mix them together, hibiscus and ginger. So I like both. I like the ginger beer, and I like the hibiscus tea, and mix it together and you've got sort of a sorrel. And it was really strong. It was really good. So once you get to Paris, you're going to spend 3 nights in Paris. And the first tour you're going to have is going to be the Josephine Baker tour. If anyone knows anything about Josephine Baker, she was an American actress, entertainer, singer. And she was actually a spy for the French during World War II. She worked for the French resistance. So she was undercover. She was a spy. She became a French citizen because she went there during, I believe it was 1918, and moved to France as a part of a troupe when she was a young woman, and they fell in love with her. And after she came there and the other Black entertainers came, they fell in love with Black culture. And then here comes World War I, and here comes the 𝗂69 Harlem Hellfighters and their band fighting on the side of France. And they brought their jazz. They fell in love with Black culture. So Josephine Baker is an icon. She was buried or interned at the Pantheon, the French Pantheon, which is where they bury all of their heroes. So that was in 2021. It took a while, but at least she got there. But she was buried or interned in the French Pantheon in 2021, November, by Emmanuel Macron. Okay, so like I mentioned before, France, Paris, and Marseille, mostly Paris, but there are other places throughout France that have influences for Black culture and Black history. And these are just some of the people. The guy in the middle, that is General Thomas Dumas. He was the Black general. He was of Guadeloupean heritage, and he was a renowned general. He was actually Dumas, the author, his dad, who wrote The Count of Monte Cristo. So The Count of Monte Cristo, when I was in school, we read that novel, and that story was Alexandre Dumas. He wrote that story based off of his father's life. So there's a lot of history there. So you see the picture down there. That's the 369th Harlem Hellfighter Band. You see Sidney Bechet at the bottom left. He was a jazz musician. Above him is Ada Bricktop Smith. She owned, I believe she owned the first club owned by an African-American woman in Paris. Then you see Langston Hughes. You see Josephine Baker in her military uniform in the middle. And here you're going to see on the right, you're going to see Eugene Bullard. He was called the Black Swallow of Death. That was before he became a fighter pilot for the French. So he was born in Georgia, stowed away when he ran away from home when he was like about 12 or 13, stowed away on a ship, went to London, lived in London, worked with some gypsies and learned how to box. He was also a jockey, went to France and joined the French Foreign Legion. And so that's when he became known as the Black Swallow of Death, because he was so lethal. And that was all before he became a French fighter pilot. Then we've got Louis Armstrong. This is just to illustrate some of the history that we have as Black Americans and Caribbean Americans, not just Caribbean Americans, but people in the Caribbean, just African diaspora. There are also other African people who there's a history there with the Senegalese riflemen, and there's a monument we visited in the Beaujolais wine region of all places, because during World War II, the Nazis, or the 𝗪𝗏𝗍𝒐𝒍, we can't say some of these words, occupied Germany, had occupied France. And so there was a battle there and a massacre. So there's a cemetery there. So this is a wonderful tour. And just remember, it's time to live your dream, right? Your limitations are the ones that you set on yourself. And thanks for joining. And if anyone is interested in, the trip, then what I advise you to do, because what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to put a link to a blog article that I wrote about my trip this past summer. And then you can sign up for my mail list. But if you are on the VIP list, check your email box. Check your email so you can get on my calendar, and you can schedule your river cruise consult, and then you can make your deposit and plan out your trip to live the dream. So this is Priscilla with Scylla Travel, hoping that you have a great rest of your evening and morning, afternoon, or whenever you watch this video, and from wherever you watch it. And remember, as always, live the dream.